This is land of frost and fire. It's the north of Normal Metro, Fargo, North Dakota. What is this place? Who lives here? We're going to find out one person at a time. We have with us today Pastor Cody Weckerly. Hello, Cody.
Hey.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, Pastor, you were telling me that you actually live in Casselton. That's where you lay your head at night. Now, that's just, 20 minutes west of here?
Yeah.
And I'd say that's probably the outer edges of the Fargo Metro, I think.
Definitely.
When you think Fargo, West Fargo, Moorhead, maybe Horace, Mapleton, and then Casselton, way out west there.
Yeah, and you got a few that maybe drive in from Buffalo and Arthur and some of those other places.
So when you get out west there, you think Buffalo and Arthur are part of the Metro?
Just barely. Just a few people.
Do they come to your services, people all the way from Buffalo and Arthur, or how far out do people come to your services for?
I don't know that we have anybody from Buffalo. We've got a family from Air, the Arthur area. We've had people come from Hope.
Yeah.
So it's definitely drawing from Wheatland and some of those other smaller communities to the west of Casselton. And really, that's why we started the church 4.5 years ago.
When I want to actually go even further back. So, Becoming a pastor, that's a heck of a thing. How long ago, how did you become a pastor? When did that happen? What was the very, very beginning of that journey?
Yeah, that's a great question, and certainly one that I get a lot. People always want to know, how do you get from being another guy to being a pastor? And for me, anybody who knows my background is especially curious because I grew up a small town kid in the middle of North Dakota on a family farm. My family still farms today. They're just west of Carrington, right on Highway 200 in a little community called Hertzfield. So,
how many miles is that from Fargo?
It's about 3 hours from Fargo.
Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, so you must be, is it kind of out near Bismarck or?
Yeah, it's 84 miles northeast of Bismarck.
Okay.
I always tell people Harvey is where I graduated high school. A lot of people are familiar with Harvey. If they end up driving to Minot, they scoot through Harvey. So, that's where I grew up, and, growing up on a family farm, obviously becoming a pastor is in some ways, I guess, far from what or what people would have expected of me. And so I would say that after high school, I had no idea what I was going to do. I went to college at the University of North Dakota. I took classes in the College of Business and thought I would just get a management or a finance degree.
And that was how many years ago?
That was 2004. I think I graduated high school.
So 20 years ago?
Yeah.
20 years ago? Isn't it crazy how you can say that all of a sudden? 20 years ago, I came to Fargo. Was that your first time in Fargo or living in Fargo? You must have been familiar.
Well, that was UND up in Grand Forks. So,
I'm sorry, Grand Forks.
Yeah,
Yep.
The other university.
Yeah.
And I'm very aware of the rivalry.
Yes.
I had two older brothers, and the oldest went to NDSU, so he would come back to family affairs with these chants that he would learn at the fraternity he was part of. So
the rivalry is intense.
But yeah, I think it was 2004 when I graduated high school and went to Grand Forks, and I just expected I'd get a business degree. It seemed like the most natural thing. Business was in my DNA. You grow up around the kitchen table hearing business decisions be made. Our particular operation in Hertzfield was very diversified. There was a family farm of about 17,000 acres. But then in addition to that, there was a fully functioning agronomy business, a trucking business, and a number of different things.
17,000 acres. I think that's hard for people to kind of wrap that. How much space is that? That's a lot I
don't know how many square miles it is or anything like that.
How many city blocks is that? I can't
that's
do miles and miles and miles. But that's got to be like as far as the eye can see.
If you wanted to find the from at least as far as east is from the west, it would probably take about 18 miles or so to get from, you guys are like fields that are spread from each other.
Are you like the Dutton family of North Dakota?
Well, one thing about North Dakota is there are a lot of big farms, a lot of big family farms,
Absolutely.
right? So to have a family farm that's 10,000 acres or more is not uncommon these days.
Wow.
So it has definitely been part of how farms have survived. The only way you can survive is you have to farm a lot of land.
Yeah.
But we are a fourth generation farm, so I guess we broke the pattern. They say the first generation builds it, second generation enjoys it, and the third generation squanders it.
Yeah.
But my brother, he's still there. He's running the operation. but didn't myself feel a call to go back to the farm, and didn't know I wouldn't go back to the farm until several years into college. And almost immediately when I got to UND, I met some people that were connected with Campus Crusade for Christ. I went to college as a Christian, but I would say a Christian that was very confused and very ungrounded and exploring the world, and certainly curious, and probably dabbling and getting involved in plenty of things that I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
But by God's grace, I met a great group of people there and eventually got connected to a local church. And it was really just through my involvement in the local church, through serving in a variety of ways, whether it was with the worship team, with their youth ministry, leading a college Bible study in the dorms on campus, that I would come to go, this is an interest. And then, I think one thing that's helpful for all of us is just as you gain a variety of experiences, you meet people along the way who speak into your life. And in my case, I had a number of people who just said, hey, I think you really should consider vocational ministry as part of your future. And if you ever get the opportunity to grow in your education, gain more training, go to seminary, then you should avail yourself of that opportunity.
Wow. And so for how long from there to actually being a pastor?
I somehow figured out a way to cram 4 years into 5. So I was on the 5-year plan in college.
Yeah.
I did
got that business degree.
Still got the business degree. Got my finance degree. And really thought we were just going to stay around Grand Forks potentially long term. My wife and I got married when right before we both started our 4th year of college. So we got married young. And she ended up going into the PT program at UND. So when I wrapped up my finance degree, I was working as a teller at a bank for a while. And then somebody came to me and said, hey, we have this opening with Youth for Christ. We're looking for a director for our ministry. Is this something that you would consider? And honestly, at the time, it wasn't very attractive because there were a number of just problems going on within the organization at that point. And they really didn't even have money to pay me. So I was going to have to do what a lot of people do within ministry. I was going to have to raise support and talk to people who would be willing to give their money to support a cause that they believed in. And our cause was reaching out to middle school and high school students and going on campus and trying to just build relationships with students and point them to the hope of Christ. And so I didn't know what to do with this opportunity, took it, prayed about it. And I would just say that one thing led to another. All the pieces ended up fitting together, and I would go on staff with them after a period of moving from my teller position to being a barista at Starbucks.
A winding road.
It was, yeah. And it was a position I really enjoyed for about 3 years. But during that time, I realized that, I really do need training. And I was a young guy, very young, in my early 20s. I'm working with a board of directors, these people who are connected to a variety of different churches. And how does a young guy like myself be able to, establish a vision and lead a group of people towards a common goal? And, that's a very big thing to think about when you're young. And so I ended up taking online classes through a seminary that I knew some friends attended. And then one day, honestly, and this was completely unexpected, but a gentleman who supported my ministry with Youth for Christ took me out for coffee, and he said, hey, if you'd be willing to attend seminary at the Master's Seminary out in California, I would pay for your education.
Wow.
So all of a sudden it was like I was already drifting in that direction. I already knew I needed the training.
Yeah.
But the thought of uprooting and relocating out to Los Angeles, California for a small town kid like myself, extremely daunting.
Yeah.
But everything just kind of fit. I went out, checked out the seminary, thought this is a school that I think would just be a great place to be and get equipped. And my wife and I uprooted. We moved out there at the time. We had 2 kids. Our second born was 5 or 6 weeks old. And for the next 3 years, there we were.
Yeah.
And then at the end of seminary, I was interning at a local church there. And the high school pastor who I was interning asked me about what I thought about Michigan. And he knew a guy, had a friend who was looking for an associate pastor just west of Detroit. And, didn't take long. We went out, we checked out that church, First Baptist Church of Farmington. Smaller church out in that community, but actually is, I think, the second oldest church in the state of Michigan.
Oh, wow.
The congregation started gathering in 1827.
Wow.
So
Been around for a while.
yeah, the church had a sweet legacy and tradition there, and we went there and immersed ourselves for 4 years, and in that time, just my heart continued to grow for North Dakota, and I really longed to come back here and to plant and start a church in an area that I felt was maybe underserved. And so that's ultimately what led us back now 4.5 to almost 5 years ago.
All right. And now that church is moved to Mapleton and you guys do services, we're going to talk about, on our next segment, we're going to talk about the Fargo Fun, which is not Easter, but Good Friday services, right?
Yes,
and
yep.
So we'll talk about that when we come back. But first, we've got Matt Papa. You sent me some music for us to listen to with his song, Come Behold the Wondrous Mystery. We'll be back with the Fargo Fun, so don't go nowhere.